Good afternoon. The time is 6:36 p.m. It's Monday, December the 16th, and we are calling to order the Housing and Human Welfare Committee meeting, our last one of the year. And it's been a long but good year, and we've got some good stuff out of here, mainly grant stuff, which is fantastic. I'll start with the roll call. Alderman Huntley.
Present.
I'm present, and Alderman Schandelmeyer is en route. Next is the approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the Housing and Human Welfare Committee meeting minutes from October the 21st, 2024?
So moved.
Excuse me. I actually need to, before I move on to the approval of minutes, approval of the agenda. And can I get a second on my motion to remove 1124 or 03324 from the agenda and 03524 from the agenda until our next Housing and Human Welfare Committee meeting in October. I'm sorry, in January.
Yes, I will second that.
All in favor on amending the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thanks. And the date for our meeting in January will be determined once Kaylin and I have an opportunity to discuss. That Monday, unfortunately, falls on a holiday. And so we will have to pick a special meeting date. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the Housing and Human Welfare Committee meetings from October the 21st, 2024.
So moved.
And second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 For the Director Hopkins, just catching you up, the sponsor has asked that we postpone 03524 until the next meeting in January. Is that fine with you?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Fantastic. I just didn't want you to think that was still on the agenda. So
I appreciate that. I was having computer connection problems, so I had to join on my phone. So thank you for acknowledging me so quickly.
Oh, no, of course, yes. We literally just removed that. So we will see you then in January. We're still trying to figure out the date because of the holiday.
Okay. Yeah, just let me know. I'll be happy to join you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
With the approval of the amendments, the next item on the agenda is appointments and reappointments, AP 25 through 20, AP 2524 through AP 2824. All are reappointments of the Housing Authority of the City of Annapolis.
We still have him?
I think he's frozen.
Yeah, we seem to have lost him.
Let's give him a minute.
Can you
We
all
lost you on after you read AP 2524 through AP 2824. They're all reappointments. That's when we lost you.
Sorry about that. And just giving the Director of the Housing Authority an opportunity to discuss anything pertinent that the Housing Authority sees fit, as well as an update on the grants that we had passed for later this year, if possible.
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me to the commission meeting, and thank you again, alderpersons for Schandelmeyer, alderpersons Huntley and Gay for spearheading the efforts to assist us in getting the grant funds that we need to assist us with repairs for our units for our residents. Since we met last, we were able to execute the agreement with the city. HACA has submitted its first request for payment in the amount of $166,000 to the city. This was probably a week before Thanksgiving, and we are still waiting to receive payment. As we're waiting, we have hired a maintenance operations supervisor, which started last week on Monday, December 9th. We are scheduling with contractors now for vacant units and units that need repairs. We have one scheduled to be on site January 6th to commence turning at least to begin with 18 units and preparing them for occupancy and performing all necessary repairs. That is for Robinwood. We are also in the midst of scheduling another contractor to assist us with repairs for Eastport Terrace and Harbor House. We also are scheduling for Bloomsbury Square as well. So that's what we are in essence gearing up now to see a large amount of progress and work activity on our sites, which we anticipate, especially with the holidays now in swing and the difficulty getting being able to schedule a significant number of units to be done at one time until January. We are scheduling those activities. We are addressing issues with units in the meantime, addressing outstanding violations from prior city inspections, from Inspire inspections, which are the HUD required inspections. We have also had those this fall. And we also had state inspections for Bloomsbury Square. So we've had a lot of inspections going on by the federal government, the state, and the city this fall. So we have a list of all the things that need to be corrected at our sites, and we'll be beginning that work. We are also in the midst of reviewing proposals for developers for the Eastport Terrace and Harbor House communities. Our Choice Neighborhood Grants, the deadline for those responses was on November 14th. And we are reviewing those responses now, and we'll be conducting interviews for developers in January, hopefully to select a developer by the end of February for our board's approval. And we do have representatives from the city staff in our review committee for developers, including Eric Lashinsky and Chris Jakubiak, who are part of our evaluation panel for those developers. And so that's just a general overview, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I see the hand of Alderman Schandelmeyer. I'll start with him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Maddox Evans, so I have some questions. One on the grant applications for the repairs, and then two, the redevelopment of Eastport Terrace and Harbor House. So on the grant application for the process, you said you submitted the grant requests around the week of Thanksgiving. Did I hear that correctly, or did I miss it?
Yeah, I think it was right before Thanksgiving break.
Right before Thanksgiving. Okay. What is the usual timeline, and can you repeat the value that you requested for that again?
The usual timeline.
What was the amount you had requested again?
It was $166,000, reflecting maintenance, repair, personnel, and also estimates we received from contractors to repair our units, which totaled $166,000. So of the $250,000 $50,000 first tranche that is available to us. That's what we immediately requested for the first request, and we will have others to follow.
Why not request the full $250,000?
Well, the way the grant is structured, we needed to submit estimates that backed up the request.
Okay.
For the work. So it's, instead of submitting a number that we thought we would need, we have to submit information to support the numbers. And so we had asked our contractors to provide us with estimates on what those repairs would be. We also provided information with regards to the costs of maintenance staff and salaries associated with maintenance staff, and also maintenance temporary help that we need in order to perform these tasks. So all of that our requests have to be backed up with supporting documents in accordance with the grant.
Okay. And the grant has not been given yet. What is the usual timeline from our office to give grants out? Do you know?
That's a great question that I cannot answer if there's a usual timeline.
Okay.
As you.
And you requested that through planning and zoning?
I can respond a little bit to that. Sorry, Vicki Buckland, Assistant City Manager. So planning the internal process for that, there's a purchase order associated with that contract, just kind of like any other contract. Planning and zoning has done their part in terms of kicking off that payment process. And so it's finalizing that and actually getting the check out. So that should be happening very, very soon. Obviously, this is a payment that we know about, and you want to make sure gets into their hands. So I will be doing some follow-up to make sure that that's continuing to move along, because I know that that's something that is important for HACA to be able to do that, get that repair work done and all the rest of the next steps that need to happen.
Thank you. Does very soon mean this week, next week, before the new year?
My hope would be that it would be in this week's check run.
Awesome. If I could request that you please alert the committee if that is done in this week's check run, if that is not done in this week's check run, and if that is not done in this week's check run, you let us know, because I do think at bare minimum this needs to be granted before the new year. I know that getting this contractors ready before the new year will be difficult, but I think what will make that even more difficult is not having the money. Thank you. And then, Mr. Chairman, if you will continue to indulge me, my follow-up questions on the redevelopment. How many developers have applied?
We received 3 responses.
That's not a lot. Is that typical, or is that
It depends.
less than we were expecting?
It depends on the project, but this is a very large project, which further limits the responders of master developers that have experience with choice neighborhood projects. And so we had many firms interested throughout the process in attending our pre-qualifications conferences, the tours of our properties that we scheduled in relation to those interested in responding. And we probably had maybe about 10 to 12 firms showing interest. And from that whittled down, once we laid out the requirements of the project, solicited earnest proposals of firms that believe they could do the work and help us get the funding. So we would, of course, liked many more respondents, but I am not necessarily concerned that it is a smaller number because we actually receive much more qualified respondents.
Could you please send to the committee some information on the 3 firms that have applied, just so we can look at it for our curiosity?
I can after the evaluation committee has reviewed and we've gone through our procurement process.
Fair.
Mhm.
Thank you. Chair, I yield my time.
Alderman Huntley, any questions?
No, I really appreciate having the director here with us.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. My first question is, can a member of this committee serve on the evaluation committee? Maybe not in a capacity to make decisions, but to evaluate the process and to kind of serve as a liaison, maybe?
I'm sure I would speak to either Chris Jakubiak, maybe, or Eric Lashinsky. They're currently the city's liaison on our committee, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to answer any questions about the evaluation process, which is pretty extensive in terms of our methodology. And but they can certainly share with you all of the criteria. For example, all of the evaluation committee members must complete a conflicts of interest questionnaire even before evaluating, that they must submit and agree to our ethics guidelines with regards to how we review proposals. We have evaluation guideline instructions and criteria that go along with reviewing the actual proposals. And there are several steps in our process, and I think they'd be more than happy to go over that with you. So we actually met today to discuss the proposals and made decisions on interviews, which will be conducted in January, at the end of January. And from those interviews, we'd be making further determinations with regards to whom we want to proceed with, if any. It may be that after doing extensive interviews, that for whatever reason, none of the developers meet what our standards or criteria is for this project. And we would just begin the process again in terms of the search. So we are determined to find a partner that not only meets all the legal criteria and has the financial capacity to do this project, but also has really the heart of what we're trying to achieve and understands our collective mission and vision, particularly for the overall project. So it's a very extensive and rigorous selection process. And but we'll be happy to share that process with you.
That would be great. And I'm not asking for us to be, so intimately involved that there will be conflicts of interest, but involved enough that we are familiar with the projects. I think me in particular, I'd like to, at least for the last year or whatever, to, just be abreast of what's going on, be able to communicate that to the general public. And I think from our colleagues on the council, not only just because they're representing on the Housing and Human Welfare Committee, but because this project is so large, I think it does have the potential to transform the housing landscape.
Right.
And something that they are interested in. I just had also an opportunity to attend the Housing Association of Nonprofit Developers (HANDS) reception in Washington D.C. this past week. They spoke highly of you and of the projects. I know there were a few people there that had they had mentioned, oh, we're actually just touring the property. And so again, I've always thought that regardless of what was going on, that you would get us to this point. So I'm pleased, and there is a definitely discussion that this project is taking place. Could you update us just a tiny bit on Robinwood, if possible, as well?
Sure. Just spoke with the developer for Robinwood today, as a matter of fact. So right now, what we're doing is putting together the financial, the prospective financials for the project. So meaning, how much do we think, based on what we think we're trying to accomplish at Robinwood, how much do we estimate that to cost? And so we are having meetings about that right now. So there are a few different scenarios that we're thinking. Both will include increased density, but our increased density is within the planned development limits that are already at the site. And so as it stands now, we don't think we would need any additional legal changes with regards to what by how much we would be able to increase density. So we're looking at, if it's 150 units there now, the ranges we're looking in now, maybe 220 units total, 245 total, sort of somewhere in there. And all of that depends on the level of funding we can garner for this project. So right now, we are literally crunching the numbers to assess what figures we're looking at. We're going to go for the maximum amount of density that we can under the current zoning laws, and then back out from there in terms of what we're able to do based on the kind of funding we can secure. It will take about at least 12 to 18 months to secure the level of funding, which we range can be somewhere between 66 to maybe $85 million for this project. And so the level of funding that we'll be seeking will be state, county, whatever city funding is available, also tax credit investor funding, and any other type of funding. We're also looking at mixing the types of families there, a potential for a senior development, of course, mixed families, also a combination of different style of homes, garden apartments, townhomes, mixing, and of course, new and improved amenities with regards to community space, maybe commercial space, in terms of recreational space, and others. It could be a childcare facility there. So all of that are possibilities. We're also in discussions with the school district to see if there is a possibility of considering improved access between our neighborhood and Annapolis Middle School, and creating literally a road that is off Forest Drive, sort of in a wooded area. And it's a trail path that people take now that we would like to make into a true road so that children can walk safely to school from our neighborhood. So those are the kind of things that we're thinking about. In January, we will start a more, or I would say, later this winter, public meetings with the residents about what our initial thoughts are for what type of development we're seeking, and to garner their input and get their ideas, because then from there we incorporate those ideas into our more finalized plans. And so there's several things happening at once: the solidifying the financing, the resident outreach strategy, which will be multi-layered, multi-faceted, with a combination of digital outreach and in-person outreach, and all of the environmentals, logistics, in order for us to best determine what we are able to do at the site. This is the fun time where we are thinking of all our grand ideas of what we would like to see happen. So if you have any considerations for that, we would love to hear that now, so we can incorporate that in our working of the financials to see what's feasible or not. And so, so still early stages, but we are firming up the financials, which once that's more firm, then we begin the more aggressive outreach with regards to this is what tentative plans are and how we all form the actual final plan together, all stakeholders involved.
That's really, really good to hear. I know Alderman Chandlermeyer's ward is connected, is adjacent to Ward 6. I mean, and so I know that we've had issues in the past, and I think development helps that. I would like two things from this, and I'm just, throwing this out there from, my lips to God's ears. The first being for the state, our state delegation, to get creative with financing this project. Because again, when I speak with other state reps and they talk about projects in their districts, and particularly Montgomery County, they always find a way, incredibly creative ways to finance their projects. I remember speaking with Delegate Henson as it related to the Spa Road project before it was, attached to BCNI, and there had been a mention of a number of ways that a project of that size could be, financed. And so just one, I hope the state delegation is involved with this in a way that, we're actually, proactively trying to provide the funding, as opposed to just, saying, okay, Melissa, go out and find a developer and a financing partner and then come back to us, because I don't think that gets us anywhere and it takes so long.
Right.
And two, I know that when we had first got on the council, you all had went down to Florida, I think it was, to, talk with other housing authorities and, looked at how they were developing. And one of the things that they were doing was actually acquiring commercial property, and, using that to offset the cost of rent and land costs, etc. And, what a great story it would be if HACA could, take the restaurant / bar that has caused so many issues and that where there's so much drug use, the liquor store, which is just synonymous with the Black community and just terrible things, and that gas station, and turn that into coveted commercial property. That is what development is about. And when we talk about this mass development that fits exactly in line with what Eric has proposed in the Annapolis Head plan. And so, again, incredibly proud and thankful for the work that you've done, and thank you for giving us this time today. Anybody else have any questions or concerns? No hands?
I think that this has some really good potential for opportunity and to be life-changing. we've seen the consequences of just shoving low income housing in a concentrated area off at the edges. And by redeveloping this into something mixed use, mixed income, and having better connections, we can really do some life changing things. So looking forward to it.
Okay, well, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Melissa. Appreciate it very, very much. I'm going to just quickly ask for a point of information from our city council associate. Do I need to make a motion to move these appointments, or have they already been voted on by the full council?
They have been recommended favorably by the housing committee, and you asked in council for them to be brought back here. So if you don't want to do anything with them, they'll go on the next agenda for housing. I mean, for city council.
Okay, let's just take no action and moving forward then.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda will be ID 18424, lease behavior modifications diversion program discussion. And this is fairly quick because it's just discussing an amendment that we had this year. Is Cynthia here by any chance? And Vicky? So in the budget this year, we set aside $50,000, and the purpose of it was so that we could establish a pilot program that will work with properties or property that we identify maybe as a committee and tenants on leasing issues. I know there was concern out of Watergate with a number of issues that were taking place with the current property management. Annapolis Roads, Admiral Oaks. There's so many other communities that are not directly attached to the housing authority. And so I wanted to put this item up so that one, obviously we can get the funding going and moving in the right direction. But two, just have a better understanding of what would be needed from either myself to sponsor or the committee to sponsor the legislation to create this pilot program.
Cynthia, did you want to start or you want me to jump in?
You go right ahead.
So I think the question of legislation depends a little bit upon what it is that you're looking to do. Obviously we already have some personnel within planning and zoning, which is where I believe this money ended up going, who interface and work with on housing issues now. Cities in particular, obviously, interfaces with HACA and others. And if what you're looking for is kind of in some sense an expansion of the array of things that she's doing, I'm not sure we necessarily need legislation per se. If what you're looking for is instead something else where the city takes a more active role within the relationship, the leasing relationships itself somehow, or has oversight, you're interested in, let's say I'm pulling this out of the air, let's say for the sake of argument that you had some ideas around what constituted essentially sort of bad behavior or bad faith, a bad faith relationship, and you wanted some kind of penalties around that, that would require legislation. So I think the question of legislation depends a little bit on what you're hoping that person will be able to do.
Well,
Did that make sense?
it does make sense, and I just like to further clarify. I wouldn't want the city to be involved in staffing anything. I'd like us to give this funding to a nonprofit or for-profit organization that works in like lease risk behavior modification. I will forward with you all right now a description of the program that I was forwarded over that really piqued my interest. And just so that we can, because it may not need legislation to your point, it may just be simply putting it out or having the city manager's office, assign it to this nonprofit organization. But I don't want the city to be involved in it. And again, a part of what I would like us to do by partnering with this organization is to, kind of put a break on how much we actively are involved, whether it be independently as like older people and some of the issues that we have with constituents, or whether it be even with staff and, the very intimate relationship I know that we have with, residents who rely very, very much on our staff, for these negotiations, for, tactics on how to, talk with landlords, or, how to read their lease, or, all of those things.
Yeah, I'd be happy to sit down with you and talk through what that would look like and what our options are in terms of how we might be able to approach that. Yeah, I'd be happy to sit down and talk about that.
So I just forwarded to this entire committee, so everybody will have a chance to look at that and just give their opinions. Again, it's something that I think could serve a capacity that we just can't right now, just because we're all stretched thin. But that's the discussion on that. Are there any other questions? It's 7:13. We're 15 minutes before our estimated goal time. Any questions on any item not on the agenda? All right. I appreciate everybody's time. It's been really, really fun serving with you all this year. Looking forward to next year, which again is a short year because we have the budget. We don't meet in in August, and then October we leave. And so any pressing, legislation that we want to get to the committee, let's try to get it introduced, by like February, so that we can work together as a body to get stuff done. I know I've already
got another
issues with Cynthia, so.
I got another daycare bill coming up, so that's fun.
Fantastic. All right, I will see you all in a couple of weeks. Have a fantastic holiday. The motion to adjourn.
Hi, everyone.
Somebody has to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
See you all. Be safe.